All right, so in this video, I'm going to discuss if the Caribbean CBIs, the Caribbean citizenships, the countries that sell their passports, are these real citizenships anymore, especially after the auditing requirements put in place by the US government. I got a lot of queries requesting more information. So I thought it's important to address this and share my opinion on what I feel. Also, I wanted to discuss as the second part the impacts of the auditing requirements, right? What happens in this process? Are your citizenships, especially when it comes to the Caribbean options, are these citizenships safe moving forward? And a whole lot more. So, and towards the end, the third part, I'm going to discuss some alternatives. A lot of people feel this is a very good change. I personally feel it's a good change because it cleans up the system. There are a couple of major issues that of late have got a lot of attention from the West. One is the whole Cyprus fiasco. That's the first one. And second was the allegations coming out of St. Kitts and Nevis, their ex-due diligence chief, who promoted the platinum brand of passports that they sold. There have been allegations of scams. The funding that they received for the program was allegedly used for illicit activities. And wasn't invested as promised to the investors. So once an investor invests a fund into the country, it's very important to understand the ramifications, right? So if you're funding the wrong activity, there are two scenarios. One is either you knew that the activity was going to be illegal, and second scenario is where you were unaware, you were an innocent investor, you thought that the funds are being invested for the betterment of the country, but on the contrary, someone without your knowledge utilized the funds for something totally illicit, right? So these are two very clearly different scenarios. There are a lot of developers who flout the rules, especially when it comes to the real estate options in the Caribbean area, where they collect the funds, they collude with the investors. The investors are very well aware that they're getting a very hefty discount, and they feel that the entire responsibility lies with the developer and they'll get away. But that's not the case. Both equally have to pay the penalty. And typically what happens is the developer sometimes runs away and the investor is then investigated for the wrongdoing, right? Prosecution happens. So that's another realistic threat that one needs to be aware of. A lot of people send me inquiries or comments where they ask, hey, I'm getting a huge discount. It's 40K, 50K instead of the regular 200, 250. Is this a safe thing to do? I mean, common sense really prevails. If something is too good to be true, it is too good to be true. And if the program is not advertising any such option, and if you're getting some black market or gray market deal, which is promoting such schemes, typically they are fraud schemes, and you've got to be aware of all such scenarios. Now, before I deep dive into this topic, if you're new, my name is Jay, and here we discuss investments that lead to residencies, citizenships, news articles, impacts of different changes on different programs. So make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss on any updates, any latest and breaking regarding any of the programs. All right, so let's first discuss the citizenships, right? Are they real? Well, they are definitely real. They're legitimate citizenships, right? The natural born citizens from those countries. They are obviously they are naturally born, so obviously their citizenships are immune to any of this kind of effect. When you're purchasing these citizenships, there's a certain criteria, right? There's certain criteria that you need to meet. You have to be eligible. If your eligibility is based on fraud, then they don't stay real anymore, right? They get revoked, they get terminated. One of the troubling things that has bothered a lot of people in this community is the Cyprus situation. So what happened with Cyprus is that they had the robust due diligence process. They did that. They accepted the investment. The investors got their funds, and the funds were taken. The due diligence was done. Citizenship was given. So one would expect a number like 200, right? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of citizenships. That's a lot of due diligence that they conducted. But turns out that they terminated those 200 passports under various sections after they had pressure from the EU, the Western government. So that was a huge impact on the credibility of a lot of the things at play here. With St. Kitts and Nevis, what happened is the ex-due diligence chief is accused, right? This is an accusation at this point. It's an allegation. We don't know the truth, right? It'll come out. We haven't heard any new updates since then. But yes, the moment there's an update, obviously I would like to cover that. But these are allegations of misusing funds from the CBI pool. Allegedly, the person spent most of his time in the US and invested these funds for personal use instead of what it was intended for. So now for the people who have invested in purchasing passports and citizenships from these countries, the big question is, once this proceeds further, once more details are out, how are they going to consider these cases, these passports? Are there any terminations? Now, terminations or revocations of citizenships will all based on how the investigation unfolds. How much of the information did the investor have in the process about all of this going on? If there's a connection, then obviously the investigation would take that into account. Now, this, again, when I discuss all of this, this is educational and news content. This is not immigration, investment, finance, or tax advice. So that's the whole thing. Now, my personal opinion on the US's intervention. So what has US done? The US met with the Caribbean PMs, the 5 countries that sell passports. It has obviously discussed all of these things at large, I would believe. The outcome is that there's going to be enhanced due diligence measures. There's going to be more transparency in how these are conducted. There's going to be auditing. So auditing is a big one, because in auditing, what happens is even if you got the citizenship, it's going to be reevaluated for fraud, for indications of fraud and any wrongdoing. So as long as there's no wrongdoing, it's fine. The person would be able to keep the citizenship. But if there is any evidence of issues with the application, then obviously it could be prosecuted and terminated, and there could be heavy penalties, including jail time, based on any wrongdoing that was uncovered. So the auditing is one big one that came out of it. What is the impact of the auditing on existing passports? Does that make them any less credible? I don't think so. If your application is legit, genuine, then there should be no impact. These citizenships are all real citizenships because they're legal. Don't forget, they're legal in the countries that sell these passports. So although some countries don't like passports or citizenships being sold under the name of donation, but because these countries are legalizing them, it's a legal process. So these are very valid, very legal citizenships. Auditing does have an impact for people who have to be worried about something that they have hidden or something that may come out in future. Some people like this change. I personally feel it cleans up the system, and especially at the backdrop of what happened with Cyprus, backdrop of what is happening, or what the ongoing allegations within the St. Kitts and Nevis program. There have been a lot of news coming out from the Grenada program, where the developer colluded with investors to provide heavy discounts, abuse the program, and get citizenships that way. So that's again a very big area of concern. So everyone is watching this, right? These things better not happen, but if they happen, then there's going to be an equal and opposite crackdown on these options. The Western governments are going to get involved, because then if there's going to be fraud that's going to stem from these situations, then no one wants that scenario. So that is why this is going to, this is meant to clean up the whole system and do the overhaul. What are the alternatives, right? Some people don't like this whole being associated with this whole thing, right? What's going on, because sometimes some people do certain things that are wrong. It paints a wrong picture for everyone. The reputation gets harmed. So when you're traveling, you've not done anything wrong. People tend to look at you in the same light sometimes, which is unfortunate, but that's the reality that happens. So a lot of people aren't interested in being under the spotlight all the time, because they have nothing to do, they have nothing wrong that's going on. So why do you want to get associated with a certain type of profile or be seen in certain type of way with a certain type of reputation at banks, at airports, when you're traveling, all of that? And a lot of people try to avoid interactions. Then what's the point of investing and doing all of this, right? So if you read between the lines, you know what I'm saying. What are the alternatives, right? Some of the alternatives, some natural alternatives, some awesome alternatives are in Latin Americas. The top ones are Mexico. There's Paraguay, which is interesting. There's Uruguay, which is quite safe and quite interesting. There is Curacao, which can eventually lead to Dutch citizenship. That's a very good option through real estate investment. So those are some very good options in Latin America. There's Nicaragua, there's Panama. Panama has an option, so that's a very good one. In the Africas, the two top ones are South Africa. Now, if you missed how you can qualify for South Africa, it's one of the best in the Africas because it allows dual citizenship. It has a flexible permanent residency. It has a very attractive entry point. Now, if you have missed the coverage on South Africa, you can return and take a look at this video. This talks about it in a lot more detail. The second natural option is Mauritius. That's more of a premium plan B. There are three options in Mauritius. I've covered this in a lot more detail in this video. You can come and take a look at this one. So these are some of the options in Africa's. There's a good option in South Korea if you're looking at the Asia region. So South Korea has a very attractive residency permit that you can obtain by investing close to $500,000 in investment fund. So that if you're interested in the Asian region, then that's one option. And if you are interested in learning and exploring more options, some real hidden gems, you can always click that link in the description, book a call with us. We can discuss your specific needs, the circumstances that you're in, and then we can accordingly route you to the right legal expert to start your process based on which residency suits your needs the best. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Make sure you're subbed and catch you in the next one.